Okay, so have you ever actually wondered if the pursuit of profit could evolve your soul? I mean, for centuries, we've been told that making money and growing spiritually are just fundamentally at odds. We're taught that to be truly enlightened, you have to detach completely from the material world, and that accumulating wealth is somehow inherently greedy or corrupt. But what if that entire premise is just totally flawed? What if wealth and spiritual growth aren't enemies at all, but actually two sides of the exact same coin?
Well, welcome to today's Explainer. Today, we are going to explore a really fascinating framework that attempts to bridge the gap between divine truth and modern economics. We'll be looking at this progressive view of business, one that completely removes the historical guilt associated with making money and reimagines the true purpose of profit in our society. So let's just dive right into this. The source material we are breaking down today comes from a book called The New Business Revolution by Ryuho Okawa. Specifically, we're going to focus on Chapter 3, which lays out this progressive view of business. The author takes a really bold approach here, cutting straight into what he calls the blind spot of modern business society. It's a genuinely intriguing attempt to synthesize religious truth with business ethics, predicting a future where these two supposedly conflicting worlds are just perfectly integrated. Here is our roadmap for today's Explainer. We're going to hit the religion versus business conflict, desire as life's engine, money as neutral energy, investing into utopia beyond mere leisure, and finally, wrap up with the spiritual service economy. All right, starting us off, Section 1, the religion versus business conflict. To really grasp this text, we first need to unpack the historical baggage surrounding wealth. On one hand, we've got these outdated religious frameworks that viewed the monetary economy as inherently evil. The text points out that ascetic teachings from thousands of years ago just don't cleanly map onto today's complex financial systems. But on the flip side, we see the opposite extreme, modern capitalism, where corporate profit-seeking acts almost like a new religion of its own. The author argues we desperately need a new synthesis that avoids both of these extremes. Moving right along to Section 2, desire as life's engine.
So, to synthesize those two extremes, the author fundamentally reframes human longing. The source material uses a super powerful metaphor here, arguing that a life completely without desire is a gray, hopeless desert. I mean, think about basic human appetite. If we view the simple act of eating 3 meals a day as a root of suffering that needs to be purged, human existence becomes incredibly bleak, right?
The crucial takeaway is this: desire shouldn't be blindly rejected. Instead, we have to recognize it as a necessary energy source. It's literally the driving force for societal advancement. If you have the desire to improve your own life, well, that exact same energy can be harnessed to improve society as a whole.
Which brings us to Section 3, money as neutral energy.
Okay, so if desire is the engine, what about the fuel? What about money itself? The text introduces this concept of value neutrality. Currency is really just a neutral substitute value. It's an accounting mechanism for exchange. And because it's neutral, money itself is neither good nor evil. Its moral weight depends entirely on the transparency and the attitude of the person actually using it. To really illustrate this, the text poses a pretty direct question. Imagine you generate a profit of 100 million yen. Is that 100 million yen a sin? Well, the progressive view of business says absolutely not. The real question is, what are you going to do with it? Do you use it to buy yourself 10 new luxury cars? Or do you channel it into something that creates wider societal and spiritual value? The accumulation isn't the problem at all. The allocation is where morality enters the picture.
Let's dive into Section 4, investing in a utopia. This right here is where philosophy turns into actionable societal strategy. Excess wealth shouldn't be hoarded or blown on fleeting vanity. It must be actively converted into higher values. That means investing in physical infrastructure, providing conveniences, and facilitating spiritual learning for folks without resources. The text essentially argues that money is the literal building block for creating a utopia on Earth.
Next up, Section 5, beyond mere leisure.
So what happens as society actually succeeds in doing this? The author forecasts that as automation and wealth increase, we are going to have vastly more leisure time. But there's a huge catch regarding the grades of pleasure. If people just spend all their new free time on physical, superficial entertainment, they will actually grow fatigued. True fulfillment requires moving up the grades, from physical to intellectual learning and ultimately to spiritual pleasure, which is what actually evolves the soul.
And that leads us to Section 6, the spiritual service economy.
This brings us to the final and honestly perhaps the most fascinating prediction in the text. Because society will soon be desperately searching for those higher grades of pleasure, the author predicts the birth of entirely new industries, specifically a spiritual development service industry. As people seek deeper meaning, businesses will organically form to meet that market demand.
I love this part. The author uses a truly fantastic analogy to explain this. Think about a traditional travel agency, right? You go to them, tell them what kind of physical vacation you want, and they guide you to the exact right destination. Well, the text predicts the rise of spiritual agencies. Instead of booking a beach trip, these entirely new companies will act as expert consultants to match your soul and your intellectual curiosity to the perfect spiritual community, study group, or philosophical organization.
Okay, so how does this actually work in practice? The text lays out the exact operational functions. Step 1. These businesses will thoroughly evaluate and research various spiritual organizations, essentially vetting them for quality and safety. Step 2. They'll expertly guide seekers to the communities that perfectly align with their values. And Step 3, which is absolutely critical, they will act as a third-party buffer to mitigate the risks of joining and, just as importantly, the risks of leaving a group if it turns out not to be a good fit. It's essentially a consumer protection and guidance service, but for your soul.
So, just to quickly summarize what we've covered today, this progressive view of business fundamentally removes that historical guilt associated with profit. It argues that making money isn't a sin. Rather, it's an essential mechanism for societal and spiritual evolution. By viewing desire as an engine and money as neutral energy, we can bridge the gap between divine truth and economic reality, paving the way for brand new industries that cater to the very highest grades of human fulfillment. Which leaves us with this final thought. We are rapidly approaching a future where automation and wealth are going to give us more free time than literally any generation before us. So the question isn't just what you will do with your money, but what will you do with your time? As the spiritual service economy emerges, where will you choose to invest your spiritual capital? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll leave you to think on that.